For 20 years, Amanda and Richard Harper were the epitome of suburban stability. Their marriage, weathered and comfortable, was the kind that neighbors admired. A house filled with laughter, annual summer barbecues, and the comforting predictability of a life well lived. Yet beneath the veneer of their idyllic existence lay a truth so sharp it could tear their world apart. Amanda first noticed the shift one gray November morning. Richard, a man of habitual routine, lingered too long by the kitchen window, his coffee untouched and his gaze fixed on the hedge separating their yard from the neighbors. When Amanda approached, he startled like a man caught in a private moment. "Just thinking about the gutters," he muttered. His voice was calm, but his eyes darted away from hers. Something about his tone unsettled her, but Amanda pushed it aside. After all, Richard was as predictable as the tides, a creature of comfort and loyalty. The idea that he might harbor secrets seemed absurd, until the whisper came. It was delivered casually by their neighbor, Carol Benson, during an impromptu conversation about holiday decorations. "You know, Richard and Sylvia have always been so close. It's sweet, really, how neighbors can stay such good friends for so long." Sylvia. The neighbor whose name was rarely spoken, despite living just beyond their back fence. A widow in her mid-50s, Sylvia was polite but distant, a shadow in the neighborhood. Amanda had never thought much of her, until that moment. Carol's words hung in the air like smoke. Amanda's heart raced, her mind replaying moments she had overlooked. Richard's sudden insistence on handling the yard work alone, the occasional missed dinners with vague explanations about work or errands. The puzzle pieces began to arrange themselves into a sinister image. That night, while Richard slept, Amanda ventured into his study. She knew it was wrong, but the knot of doubt in her chest demanded resolution. She searched his desk, his drawers, even his laptop. Nothing. And then, in the back of his closet, she found the box. It was old, battered, and taped shut. Inside, Amanda uncovered letters, hundreds of them. Each one was addressed to Richard, signed by Sylvia. The contents were unmistakable: confessions of love, recountings of stolen moments, promises of a future that Amanda now realized had always been shared with someone else. Her hands trembled as she read the words. 20 years of marriage, and yet here was an entire life Richard had built just steps away, hidden in plain sight. Amanda didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she began to watch. She noticed the fleeting glances Richard cast toward Sylvia's house, the way his voice softened when her name came up in casual conversation. The pieces fell into place with a cruel precision. The breaking point came on a cold December evening. Amanda followed Richard under the guise of running errands. She trailed him to a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town, where she watched him meet Sylvia. They sat close, their hands brushing, their laughter intimate. Amanda snapped a photo and walked away, her heart pounding with fury and betrayal. Back home, she prepared her confrontation carefully. She laid the letters out on the dining table, the photo beside them. When Richard walked through the door, his face froze at the sight of his secret life laid bare. "You've been lying to me for 2 decades, Amanda said, her voice cold but steady. Richard's attempt at denial crumbled under the weight of evidence. He confessed, stammering apologies and explanations, claiming he had tried to end things, but couldn't. Amanda listened, her face a mask of calm, as a storm raged inside her. When he finished, she rose from her chair and walked to the door. "I want you gone by morning," she said simply. Richard left, and Amanda stayed behind, staring at the empty house that had once been her sanctuary. The whispers beyond the fence were silent now, but they had forever changed her life. Sylvia moved away shortly after. Her house sold to a new family. Amanda remained, stronger than she had ever known herself to be. In the end, the truth had broken her heart, but set her free. In the weeks following Richard's departure, Amanda found herself navigating the ruins of her life. The whispers of neighbors grew louder, some sympathetic, others judgmental. Amanda ignored them all. She had no room for gossip, only for reclaiming herself. Her days became a rhythm of quiet defiance. She repainted the walls of the house, replaced old furniture, and boxed up everything that reminded her of Richard. The letters she had found, though, remained. She couldn't bring herself to destroy them. Instead, she locked them away in the attic, a reminder of the lies she had survived. But the nights were the hardest. Alone in the silence, Amanda's thoughts often wandered to Sylvia. How could she live just beyond the hedge for so many years, knowing she was dismantling another woman's life? Had she ever felt guilt, or had the thrill of secrecy drowned it out? Amanda didn't know why, but one icy January evening, she found herself standing at Sylvia's old house. The windows were dark, the curtains drawn. A young couple had moved in, their toddler's toys scattered across the yard. Amanda felt a pang of envy for their fresh start, untarnished by betrayal. As she turned to leave, she noticed something odd, a faint rustling sound. It was coming from the garden shed in Sylvia's yard. Curiosity tugged at her. The shed had always been Sylvia's domain, a place no one else seemed to enter. The next morning, Amanda called a locksmith under the guise of needing access to family property. With trembling hands, she unlocked the shed. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with dust and secrets. Amanda's breath caught as she stepped inside. The shed was lined with shelves of boxes, much like the one she had found in Richard's closet. Each box was labeled with a year. Amanda opened one at random and found photographs, dozens of them. Richard and Sylvia at the beach, at a park, even at a hotel she didn't recognize. Their smiles were carefree, their intimacy undeniable. But there was more. Tucked beneath the photos were journals, written in Sylvia's neat handwriting. Amanda hesitated, then opened one. The entries were chilling. Sylvia's words painted a picture, not just of an affair, but of an obsession. She had tracked Amanda's movements, noted her habits, and even detailed moments when Richard had expressed guilt. And then Amanda found something that turned her blood cold. A folder labeled Amanda. Inside were pages upon pages of notes. Sylvia had documented everything about Amanda's life, her favorite coffee shop, the time she left for work, even the route she took for her evening walks. There were photos, too, taken from a distance. Amanda sitting in her garden, walking the dog, laughing at a barbecue. Amanda staggered back, the folder slipping from her hands. The scope of Sylvia's fixation was overwhelming. It wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated invasion of her life. That evening, Amanda sat in her living room, the journal open on the coffee table. The words stared back at her, daring her to piece together the full extent of Sylvia's intentions. Was it just jealousy? A sick fascination? Or something darker? Amanda knew she couldn't let it rest. The journals might hold more answers, but she couldn't face them alone. She called her friend, Detective Laura Kemp, who had worked with the local police for years. Laura arrived within the hour, her sharp eyes narrowing as Amanda explained everything. "This is beyond an affair," Laura said, flipping through the journal. "This is stalking, Amanda. Sylvia was obsessed with you, not just Richard." They decided to take the evidence to the police. Over the next few days, the journals and photographs were cataloged. and Sylvia's actions came into sharper focus. It turned out Sylvia had a history. Before moving to Amanda's neighborhood, she had been involved in another affair, one that had ended in scandal and threats. The police dug deeper and discovered something even more sinister. Sylvia hadn't left the neighborhood entirely. She had been spotted in nearby towns, watching from a distance. Amanda's sense of safety evaporated. She changed her locks, installed cameras, and kept her phone close at all times. But no amount of precautions could erase the feeling that Sylvia was still out there, lurking. One evening, as Amanda was locking up, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed out of it. Now we both lose." Amanda froze, the weight of the words pressing down on her. She glanced out the window, her heart racing. The street was empty, the only sound the rustling of the wind. She realized this wasn't over. Sylvia's shadow still loomed, and Amanda would have to face it head-on. Amanda's hands trembled as she handed her phone to Detective Laura Kemp. The ominous text was the clearest sign yet that Sylvia wasn't done with her. Laura's expression darkened. "We need to act quickly," Laura said. "This isn't just harassment anymore. She's threatening you." Amanda nodded, her jaw tight with determination. She wasn't going to live in fear anymore. That night, Amanda stayed with Laura, refusing to return home until the police could sweep her property for signs of surveillance. The search turned up nothing, but Amanda's instincts told her Sylvia was near, waiting for the perfect moment. 2 nights later, the moment came. Amanda had reluctantly returned home, though her house felt more like a prison than a sanctuary. She double-checked every lock, every window, and sat in her living room with a fire poker within arm's reach. Sleep was impossible. At 2 a.m., she heard it, the faint creak of the back gate. Amanda's pulse quickened. She reached for her phone but hesitated. If Sylvia was truly out there, Amanda wanted to see her. Quietly, she moved to the window overlooking the yard. Into the moonlight, she saw a figure. Sylvia. She was thinner than Amanda remembered, her face pale and drawn, but her eyes burned with an unsettling intensity. Sylvia stood motionless, staring at the house, as if deciding her next move. Amanda's breath caught as Sylvia stepped closer, her hand reaching into her coat. Amanda didn't wait. She hit the panic button on her security system, flooding the yard with blinding lights and piercing alarms. Sylvia froze, her face twisting into a snarl as she realized she had been caught. Within minutes, police sirens wailed in the distance. Sylvia turned to run, but Amanda burst through the back door, fire poker in hand. "No more hiding, Sylvia," Amanda shouted, her voice shaking but firm. Sylvia stopped, her shoulders slumping as she slowly turned to face Amanda. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the distant sirens. "You took everything from me," Sylvia hissed. "He was supposed to leave you. We were supposed to be together." Amanda's grip on the fire poker tightened. "You destroyed your own life, Sylvia, and you tried to destroy mine. But it's over now." Before Sylvia could respond, the police arrived, guns drawn. Sylvia didn't resist as they arrested her, her once burning defiance replaced by hollow resignation. In the weeks that followed, Sylvia's secrets unraveled completely. The police uncovered years of obsessive behavior, not just toward Amanda, but toward others as well. Sylvia was charged with stalking, harassment, and attempted trespass, ensuring she would face consequences for her actions. Richard, still living in a rented apartment across town, tried to reach out to Amanda, claiming he had no idea how deep Sylvia's obsession ran. Amanda didn't respond. She was done with both of them. Instead, she focused on rebuilding her life. She sold the house, where her marriage had crumbled, and moved to a quiet seaside town where she could start fresh. One sunny morning, as Amanda walked along the beach, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The shadows of her past still lingered, but they no longer controlled her. Sylvia's whispers were gone, replaced by the sound of waves and the promise of a new beginning. Amanda smiled to herself, her steps steady and confident. She was finally free.